always gotta sit cross-legged. I don't know why. I feel more official when I sit cross-legged.
I don't know why I do either. I think it's just out of nervousness, like trying to close myself off.
I don't want to I'm not wearing a skirt, but I don't want to Britney Spears it.
Yeah, I don't want to show my print.
Your print.
My print.
You can't see the print. I'm wearing a jockstrap.
Oh shit.
Well, these pants are kind of skin tight. I don't got much room to fit underwear in them, so.
Do people? Is that like? So I'm not too educated on jock straps. Like I worn one time for that shoot, and that's about it. Do people normally wear them under their clothes?
Yeah.
I always thought it was like a performance thing,
People wear
like
them
lingerie for guys.
No. Well, I mean, it's for sports, right? Like football players wear jock straps.
Well, yeah, but they also wear underwear, right?
No.
No?
No, because what it does is it is for your dick. So it's because when you're wearing like spandex and stuff, so for example, like these shorts that I'm wearing, they're kind of like form fitting, and so if I were to wear like boxers or even boxer briefs under this, it like makes them ride up. But the jock strap just goes straight over your like pelvic region, just over your dick, and then the straps just go under your butt to like give you support. But it's so that like you're not like having like chafing as a result of like tight fitting or form fitting clothes. People wear them to the gym. I
never knew that.
I don't wear underwear to the gym.
Oh shit!
But it's not that.
Do you have like the Lulus with like the built-in underwear?
I have running shorts.
Okay.
So they have like the built-in netting. So
Yeah.
it just doesn't make sense for me to wear them.
Yeah, when I was doing cross country and we did those, I wouldn't wear underwear under my shorts.
What kind of underwear do you wear normally?
I got some Calvin Klein ones.
But like boxer briefs, boxers.
I don't know the difference. I couldn't tell you.
I'm an underwear expert. I'm gonna run this down. Okay, so you got boxers, which are like old man, like they're like shorts. They look like shorts.
And they go down like hella far. They got like Tweety Bird on them and
mid
shit.
calf. They're baggy around your legs. They're not at all form fitting.
Okay.
And then they usually have a button for the dick.
Okay. I do have a pair of those. That's not what I normally wear.
I have two pairs of Fenty ones, but they're not baggy.
Yeah, we got the same ones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so then there's boxer briefs, which are like the typical like spandex, but they go like halfway down your leg.
Okay.
Like any Calvin Klein shoe.
Okay, yeah, that's what I wear.
Okay. Yeah. So then there's briefs, which are just legless underwear. So they're like think of like a bikini or like a Speedo.
Okay.
But just underwear material. Then there's trunks, which is what I primarily wear, which is like shorter boxer briefs. So they're still like spandexy, but they're kind of like only like an inch or two down, but they're not cut to like fit like your hip shape. They're like just a little bit down. Then there's jock straps. There's thongs for men too. And then I think that's it. Oh, I said jock straps.
No. Yeah, you're really fascinated with jock straps.
I like jock. I think they're comfortable. Especially in like short clothes, short pants and stuff like that. I don't like wearing them with jeans. Then my butt's rubbing against denim. That's not comfortable.
Yeah, that sounds disgusting.
I don't really like boxers either, because if I wear boxers, it has to be with like loose fitting clothing. So it'll be like with like sweats.
Yeah.
But I wear trunks, and I've really gotten into briefs lately. They're like super comfy.
Okay. Well, what kind of underwear do you wear? This is the Learning Curve Podcast, episode 3.
It is Saturday, February 1st, 2025.
It is. Is there anything? Did I forget something?
No, I was just.
Is it a holiday?
I'm just timestamping it.
Oh.
Who knows? Maybe they're going to get rid of. Maybe the tariffs are going to get rid of a whole thing of boxers, and there's not going to be any more boxers anymore. Whole brand of underwear just gone.
Yeah, Trump did sign that executive order. Everybody has to free ball now.
Free balling. That's what the Democratic establishment doesn't want you to do. They want to cage you.
All right, we should introduce ourselves before we get too far, and we need to remember the form.
I'm locked and secured, and I'm Cameron.
I'm Bodhi, aka Shrinky Dink, aka that cut of the New Hope before Han Solo's head did that thing.
You know what? There's been so many cuts, I don't know. The only one I know of is when they spliced that like CGI dinosaur in for no particular reason.
Where the fuck is there a dinosaur in Star Wars?
Oh, you know what? No, I'm thinking of was it Phantom Menace? No. It was A New Hope. George Lucas remastered A New Hope. And when they get to Tatooine, there's like it's like one of the establishing shots of like Tatooine.
Oh, it like crosses in front of the camera.
Screen, no, it's just like, it looks like a fucking Tomb Raider from 1997.
Yeah,
like
that is Phantom Menace. I'm pretty sure
it is Phantom Menace. Yeah. Okay.
It might have been both. Who fucking knows, bro? That motherfucker cannot stop editing that movie. Well, I mean, he can't edit it now. He needs
to edit the 4-hour cut of Revenge of the Sith into theaters. It's May 4th.
Dude, is that actually returning to theaters this year? Because that was the first Star Wars movie I saw in theaters, I'm pretty sure.
I'll say this. The Interstellar re-release was rumored for like a whole year, and then it happened. So I'm hoping that the internet can kind of bully it into it. And you know what? Disney owns Star Wars, and if there's one thing they're going to do,
they're going to
rehash shit. So
yeah.
Oh, God. Fuck Disney. Bob Iger, if you're listening and you want to sponsor us, it's not fuck Disney, but if you don't want to sponsor us, it's fuck Disney.
I mean, just for aesthetic reasons, I'll be sponsored by one of their subsidiaries, but maybe Disney directly is a no-no.
Maybe Disney. It's a small world.
Yeah, we're going to be sponsored by the Pirates of the Caribbean ride. Get your fast pass today.
That's my favorite ride. Oh, it's my second favorite ride.
Dude, have you been seeing they have like an Avatar ride now? And have you been seeing the videos of like the animatronic moving and then it just like breaks its fucking neck and goes still?
No.
Those things are crazy.
Where is it? I'm assuming it's in Florida. For whatever reason, they give Florida all the nice... Why?
I don't know. I also found out that at the Epcot, they have... you know those things that astronauts sit in and it spins around hella fast? It was in that one Call of Duty Zombies map.
It's like to test the G's.
Yeah, to simulate like G-force on your body. Apparently they have something like that at Epcot too that people can just ride in.
Did you heard about the Star Wars hotel, right?
Oh yeah, that was a disaster.
Did you see what they're doing with it?
What are they doing?
They're converting it into corporate offices. It's just going to be Star Wars themed corporate office. Could you imagine? Hey, can you run this spreadsheet for me? And you're like, sure, let me go to the cockpit of the Millennium Falcon.
That would be sick.
No.
Are you kidding me? I would love that. It's like, hey, go to R2-D2's office. You're getting fired.
The fax machine is one of the little mouse droids.
Oh,
you have
man.
to chase it down.
That would be crazy. Every now and then a stormtrooper just walks through.
Imagine you get put on a PIP. They put you in the trash compactor. Oh, my God. Oh, my God. Speaking of corporate offices, if you have a job right now, anyone listening, don't look for a new job. The job market is horrible.
Yeah, kill your boss, wear his skin.
It's American Psycho.
Did they wear skin in that? I thought
in
that was
book.
just Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Oh,
I never read the book.
The book is a lot more.
The
book is a lot more.
I don't really read a whole lot of books. I don't do anything. I have like no media literacy at all.
No media literacy, no regular literacy.
Yeah, I'm just fucking out here.
Just vibing.
Yeah.
No, in the book, it's a lot more graphic. I think there's a scene where he like cuts someone's skin off and wears it.
Hell yeah.
Or he like fantasizes about it.
What came out first? Because I know that's the whole thing with like Texas Chainsaw Massacre, right? Is he like cuts the dude's face off and wears it?
Oh, we were asking if American Psycho or Texas Chainsaw.
Texas Chainsaw, yeah.
I think Texas Chainsaw, because I think the book is from like the 80s.
Okay.
Well, it has to be because they talk about Reagan. And weirdly enough, Donald Trump is like a side character in the book. He's not actually in the book, but like he is talked about incessantly in the book. Like Patrick Bateman is fascinated with Donald Trump.
That's crazy. Who wrote that book? Where are they at now?
Bretton Ellis, I think it's named. I'm gonna look it up. I have.
Yeah, see what they're doing now. Look at their Twitter, because this goes either one or two ways. His
photos in like he looks like he's from the 1930s in his photo. Like not old, but like the style, like the way he does his hair and the way he looks super like transcontinental.
I was about to say we should do a transatlantic accent episode.
I can't.
I think that would be fucking sick.
Like the scene from Family Guy where they're like doing the Hindenburg and it's like, oh, the humanity. Yeah. Okay, it's Bret Easton Ellis.
Okay.
He wrote another book. I think it's called like Shards or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But the American Psycho. Okay. I did not like American Psycho, not the movie, the book, for the first like 200 pages, like a 400-page book. I did not like it for the first 200 pages. But then it clicked because I was reading it and I was like, I don't really get why a lot of people like identify with this guy.
Mm-hmm.
Like I know that like Patrick Bateman's super popular with people because in the movie he's Christian Bale.
Yeah.
He's hot. I mean, he's hot in the book, but like he's a hot guy. He's ripped. He's, you know, successful. He's a businessman, you know.
Yeah.
But in the book, people like don't know his name. Like they call him like he is not referred to by a single person other than like his like close group of friends as Patrick. They always forget his name. And so it's like he's a loser. And so I was just like, why do people identify with this guy? And then it clicked with me. The people identifying with him are losers. Like they don't value themselves enough in real life to like, you know, see themselves as anything better than him.
I could see that being one subsect of it, but I also think it's just a bunch of people that are
psychotic.
Yeah, psychotic, and also just like kind of missing the point of it.
Well, that's the whole thing. I think I was missing the point of it, but just the complete opposite. Like I was like, I don't understand why people like this guy. He's like annoying. He's the whole book, by the way, is one train of thought.
So not a single period.
No. There's periods and stuff, but like, if you took out, so it's like a 400-page book. If you took out all of the content of that book that is describing someone's outfit, you would probably be left with like 50 pages.
Well, yeah, isn't the character like super vain and shit? So
he's super obsessed with stuff, and that's like the whole thing. But like, it's like there's a scene where they're at dinner, him and his girlfriend, and he just like he's losing it. It's like later in the book when he's like absolutely losing it.
Yeah, the scene where they're at the restaurant and he like breaks up with her.
Yes.
Yeah.
That takes place over like 30 pages. And he just keeps losing train of thought. So you're reading and you're like, wait a minute, I thought we were at a restaurant. Why are we like at a party? And he's just thinking of a party. So he's like vocalizing that in the book.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
I don't know if I've ever seen that in a book before where it's just like kind of
it's literally
like a physical manifestation of scatterbrain.
Yeah, no, that's what it is. Like, and that's the whole thing is, so at the end, it's very similar to like the ending with the movie where you don't know if he actually did stuff or not. But the stuff in the book is a lot more graphic. Like they toned it down for the movie, and the movie was pretty insane as it is. But like, I don't know. I'm kind of worried for the remake.
I am too. I hate that they keep remaking shit.
Okay, here's the thing. I think there's a lot that they can do with it, especially in the modern day, because the story's still relevant.
Yeah.
But the thing is the guy that's directing it is the guy that directed Challengers and Call Me by Your Name.
Okay.
Luca Guadagnino, I think is how you pronounce his last name. And he gets sex. Like he gets it. He makes things super. He made a cannibal movie and it was sexy. But like the sex in American Psycho in the book is so clean and like matter of fact.
Yeah.
Like he's like, I fingered her pussy. And then I fucked her pussy. Like it's very like you're reading it and you're like, this is like there's a three-way going on, but I'm not like at all aroused by it. It's just like you're like, oh, this is kind of gross actually. Like this is normal sexual like behavior, but it's gross somehow. And so like I'm like, are we gonna make Patrick Bateman like sexy? Like, are we gonna make him like? Am I gonna see fan cams of whoever's playing Patrick Bateman?
Yeah, you are no matter what. Like that's just an inevitability. I can't wait until there's a fan cam of me. Honestly,
fan cam of you.
Yeah, I'm gonna make one and fucking make a burner TikTok account.
We're on TikTok now, guys.
Oh yeah, we are on TikTok. I forgot. I was going to mention it at the beginning of the episode, but all of our socials are in the description. Follow the show on everything. I think we're on Instagram, Twitter, Bluesky, TikTok, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, whichever platform you're not on, just go follow it on the other ones. Make the number bigger.
Well, there's a link tree, and all the socials have the link tree.
Yeah.
And if you're gonna interact with the YouTube, likes and comments.
Yeah, likes, comments.
Same with TikToks.
Always good.
Don't leave mean comments on the TikTok because
leave mean comments. I will fucking fight you. I'll find your address and I will fucking blow up your cat.
No, I turned the filters on for the comments on TikTok.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Oh.
Because we started getting hate comments immediately. I was like, damn.
Who the fuck was hate commenting?
I posted a short yesterday, the clip that we post for the episode 2.
Yeah.
And someone commented, podcast equipment should be more expensive. This was $200.
Man,
we're sitting here with $200 of equipment,
bro. Podcast equipment should be more expensive. Do you know how many people I see doing podcasts with like the fucking just like the handheld mics? Which I mean, granted, those are good quality shit.
Oh,
but
dude,
like,
have you ever fucking recorded something with the fucking Apple headphones?
No.
Those mics are crazy.
Yeah.
They're charging $20 for that. They could record fucking Michael Jackson albums with those.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
It doesn't matter the level of your equipment. Just fucking make shit. Like,
but it's like, I don't know.
As long as it's a good product, who cares?
I wanted to, like, it's tale as old as time on TikTok. I fucking opened up the guy's profile and it's like user 1,420. It's just a random username, private account, no profile picture.
Yeah.
Like, don't hide behind. Like, say it with your chest.
User 1,420.69. Fucking post your bank account in the comments and
buy us some better equipment.
Buy us some better equipment. You know what? Let's go fucking band for band.
You want us to sound better? I'll open a Cash App.
So let's not go too far. I only got 2 bands, but yeah, fuck you.
Did you see? I meant to ask you earlier, but I think now's a really appropriate time. Did you hear about the cyber farting case out of the UK?
The cyber farting? How the fuck do you cyber fart?
I don't. This woman in the UK, I watched a TikTok on it. I've seen like many TikToks on it because it's actually kind of like a legal thing that's going on now, and people are kind of like, this is actually like has like really big implications for the legal field.
So you need a license for your TV and you need a license for your farts?
No. So basically this woman was stalking, harassing her boyfriend's ex by sending like audios and videos of her farting to the ex-girlfriend. And so the ex-girlfriend filed a lawsuit and the court like granted it and like gave her a win. So it's like a cyber farting case, or it's a harassment by farting case in the UK. It's just like USA tariffs, what was that? What was the whole immigrant plane situation thing that they turned away? What country was that? Peru. Was it Peru? No.
It was, I want to say Guatemala?
I don't, whatever the country was. Some South American country.
Yeah.
No disrespect to South American countries. Just I don't remember the country.
I'm not well educated.
USA tariffs, South America rejecting flights, Canada and Mexico about to retaliate tariffs, Syria's going through a civil war, UK side quest. Cyber farting.
Oh my god, the first person to get sued for farting. That's crazy.
I'm sure it's not the first person to get sued. I used to listen to I'm fine saying it because they don't exist anymore. So it's this news legal publication called Law 360. And then they had a podcast called Pro Se where they would kind of talk about like big lawsuits for the week. And then they had a section called Offbeat, which was like wonky shit, like in the law. And that was like every week was something like that.
Another farting case every week?
Just something like of that caliber. Like it'd be like, oh, a judge got caught sexting their bailiff like during a murder case, and it's like, what are we doing?
Oh, did you ever hear about that bailiff on Judge Judy?
Bird?
Yeah, he like fucking killed his wife. Was that Judge Judy?
No, Bird wouldn't do that, man. I watched Judge Judy on TikTok.
I swear to God, there was some judge show, which the only one that comes to mind is Judge Judy, and I'm pretty sure it was that guy. If I'm not,
well, there's
too bad.
There's two.
It's him now.
There's two.
There's two?
Yeah, so she had her original show, and then when the pandemic hit, it kind of like winded down. But then Amazon bought it and like immediately did a reboot called Judy Justice.
No, I'm pretty sure it was the guy from the first one.
Bird, I don't think so.
Unless it's the same.
That has to be misinformation.
I swear to God, I can't. I'm
Googling it. Because Bird seems so nice.
Yeah, that's what everyone was saying. They're like, "Oh my God, I never would have expected this." Rule 34.
Oh, okay. I think
Is it the guy from Judge Judy? Oh, who was it?
Bernard Spivey.
Let me see a picture.
But he was been found not guilty.
Wait, let me see a picture of him. Yeah, that was him.
That was it. It says he's found not guilty.
What show is he on?
I'm gonna have to Google him. Wait, he was.
Didn't they give Steve Harvey a judge show too?
Yes, Judge Steve Harvey. He was on a show called
What
Night
qualifications
Court.
does he have?
He was on a show called Night Court. Well, do you know that none of those shows are real, right?
Yeah, it's all like
some of them
civil shit that's already been settled, or they like agreed to a settlement before they go on the show.
The only one that is real is Judge Judy.
That's why it says real cases, real people, Judge Judy.
Right.
Yeah.
Some of them are scripted. Like I think, like Judge Joe Brown, I think was like scripted or something like that. But Judge Judy was real. They just basically what happened is like you would sue someone in court. The producers would pay attention to the lawsuits because lawsuits are public. And then they would like go to the parties and be like, oh, we'll give you an appearance fee to be on the show. You just have to actually argue your case as if you were before an actual court and abide by the ruling. And then basically like if you're getting slapped with a penalty, like a monetary fee, the appearance fee is going to lessen that. Like you're going to be paid less because you get an appearance fee if you're on TV.
Yeah.
But there's a show called Hot Bench. It's really funny. So obviously it's not real court. So
that's the one with 3 judges, right? Yeah.
But all the court shows aren't real courts. So like their bailiffs are just for show.
Yeah.
Like it's just to like mimic a real courtroom. But it's really funny because the show Hot Bench, their bailiff, who's a woman, she had a gun on her hip in one of the episodes. And I was like, is this real? But then she's in like a skirt, like a pencil skirt. Is that what they're called? Like the long, tight skirts that go like below your knee?
I don't fucking know. I don't
Whatever those are called. She's in like
a wearers in the comments. Tell us what it's called.
Femboys, speak up.
Yeah, where are my femboys at? Sound off.
No, but she's like in a skirt that goes below her knees, and it's like hella tight, like very, very like formal, like skirt. But she has a gun on her hip, and she's like in heels, and I was like, "What do we do? Like, why is she like a sexy bailiff? like right on for her, but like, what happens if there's a fight? What is she going to do? Like, you can't move your legs."
She does that spy shit where she pulls up the skirt and pulls.
There's
the gun off her hip.
There's gotta be a zipper. You got the Angelina Jolie dress on.
Yeah. Oh my god.
Oh god.
All right, what do you want to talk about today? You got anything? Because I got a couple.
No, you go ahead.
Okay. I woke up at 6 this morning.
Oh god.
And I started researching topics. Oh, do we want to bring back to last week's episode and talk about AI again?
AI part 2.
AI part 2? Or do we just move on from that?
No, if you got something with AI, let's talk about it. Let's continue it.
I think it's nothing more than I already told you when we were texting about it. Because last week we talked about AI. I think on Monday or Tuesday, and our episodes come out on Wednesday. Stock market took a shit.
Was that after our episode?
It was before our episode.
Okay. I was gonna say, because we talked about in our first episode. What did we talk about in the first episode? We talked about the Goonicide.
Yeah, the Goonicide and Costco.
And then the strike ended like right after.
Did the strike end?
Well, then there was never a strike. They raised price. Like they I think they like came back because the whole thing was they weren't coming to the negotiating table at all.
Yeah.
And then they started getting the good press for doubling down on DEI. So they like were like, oh shit, we can't ruin the good image here. So they agreed to come back to the negotiating table. And then I think they like agreed to like a blanket pay increase for everyone.
Okay.
But like they're still negotiating, but because they came back to the negotiating table,
they're like holding off.
It's still authorized, but like they're not like they're not gonna actually. I went to Costco this morning, so I really hope not.
I was about to say I feel less guilty about eating that double chunk chocolate cookie now. But
how many booms does it get?
That shit got 5 booms. That was good. I'm gonna be honest. It was a big ass cookie. I'm gonna be full for probably until dinner time, but
fucking that's everything. They have cranberry jalapeno dip. Costco that I got one time, and I sat down and ate the whole tub of it, and I said, damn.
We got a jalapeno dip. It wasn't with cranberries in it, but it was hella fucking good. It was like a jalapeno cream or some shit.
Like spinach and...
Kind of. I don't know. I forget what it was called, but we fucked up that whole tub of it in like 3 days.
I feel like the whale when I do that. You know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah, the Brandon Fraser movie.
Yes.
Yeah. AI, yes. So DeepSeek, a company founded in China, ended up releasing in December, but for whatever reason, over the last week, it got super popular. Their latest AI model, and it was outperforming or at the same performance as OpenAI's current iteration of ChatGPT. Oh, excuse me. And it was doing this with like a fifth of the power and server space it would normally take. And it was made off of tens to a couple $100 million,
Well,
as opposed to
that's
the
the whole
current
thing.
AI models that are out in the market now, which are taking like hundreds of billions of
I
dollars.
kept seeing different prices
Yeah.
as far as like how much it costs. And the whole thing is like I don't want to be like a US propagandist. Like I'm very aware of like US propaganda.
Mm-hmm.
But the matter of fact is that China and the US are the two superpowers in the world, right? They both are competing for global influence. And so the same way I don't trust the US, I also don't trust China. So like when they're reporting that it costs 90% less, I'm sure that's not the exact truth, but I'm sure that it's not necessarily untrue.
I mean, I think it
I think the difference is
is
that the Chinese government probably helped them out, whereas the US government hasn't really been helping out AI until this point.
yeah, I think I find it more believable than not that it costs like a tenth of the
Well, I
price to
mean,
make their
you
open source
you,
AI model.
you can see with a lot of things that China does, like their rail system was pretty much non-existent in the
Yeah.
early 2000s, and now it
Yeah.
is. But ask yourself who built those rails before you
Mm-hmm.
praise how fast they built the rails. Ask yourself who built those rails and at what cost. But
Yeah. But the I find it believable that they can make something better for cheaper, just because with how many like sanctions and how much pressure we have put on them, like the United States on
right,
China, it forces a entity like that to become more efficient with their work, and so they can churn out shit faster at higher quality, whereas opposed to us under a capitalistic system, we
well, they
have to
are
keep generating
China's
like
capitalist too. They are the People's Republic of Communist China. Is that what it's called? Is that the official?
I think it's just called the Republic of China.
It's state sanctioned capitalism. It's just capitalism, but the state is very much not opposed to pulling levers. Whereas the US, we are capitalists, and at any amount we are like we cannot pull these levers whatsoever.
I don't know enough to
No,
comment
it
on
is.
that.
So you know how the Biden administration, they negotiated with drug makers to like price control
Mm-hmm.
some medication like Wegovy and insulin and all that crap.
Yeah.
That's it's still a free market. The government just stepped in and pulled some levers, and that's what China did. Is it steps in and pulls a bunch of levers and pumps a bunch of money into it, which is not bad. Don't get. I'm not trying to bash China and say like
Mm-hmm.
that's wrong. I very much think that if I'm very much of the position that every level of government should be pulling every single lever they can at all times to make people's lives cheaper, easier, and more like just higher quality in general.
Yeah.
So, if the Chinese government wants to step in and say, we're going to pull the levers to have this AI thing built,
Mm-hmm.
we're going to pump a bunch of money into it, or we're going to prioritize that on our end, or, whatever, we're going to, give you the money straight up to, then by all means, go ahead. But
Yeah. The depth of my knowledge is that
there,
in China, the governments own the corporations, or not own necessarily straight up, but they have like a hand in it, or they have
they're strong armed. They're strong armed.
yeah,
Yeah.
they strong arm them.
There
Whereas
has,
here, the
there has,
corporations own our government.
if you read the Communist Manifesto, Karl Marx,
Yeah, I have.
by his definition, there has never been a communist government, because a communist government is stateless, moneyless, classless. And
Yeah.
in China, they very much have class,
Mm-hmm.
right? They have, the social like credit kind of thing that they have going on over there.
Mm-hmm.
It's very much not stateless because it's a very powerful government.
Yeah.
And it's definitely not moneyless because, well, they're a super powerful government.
Yeah.
So there just never has been, and that's the whole thing. Like I get frustrated.
Socialist and capitalist, though,
and that's fine. I don't mind that. Like I hate when people are like, oh, the communists, and it's like they're not communists. Like I'm sorry. Like they called like the USSR was not communist. It was the same exact thing China is now, just less efficient.
Yeah, I think the thing that just trips people up is their main like political party is the CCP. So
Yeah,
that's like,
well, I don't get. It's a thing. Like I get we have the 2-party system here, and I hate the 2-party system.
Mm-hmm.
But at least like it's pretty straightforward. You have your Democrats and you have your Republicans, conservatives, the liberals, but then you get to like Europe and you have like the People's Social Republic of Workers Union Party, and you're like, oh, okay, that sounds pretty left leaning, and then you look at it and it's like, yeah, man, this is the offshoot of the Nazi Party.
Yeah, no, that's the thing in the UK. There's like the Labour Party, the Tories, and then one other party. I think it's called like Reform or something.
Reform. So you're like, Reform, okay, great.
The Labour Party and the Reform Party are the ones that you're supposed to be like, okay, they're like kind of for the people. They like want unions.
Well,
and,
Labor there is
shit.
like centrist here.
The Labour Party is like their far right party now.
What?
Yeah.
But the Labour Party's in power, and that's like who they just got elected.
They're electing fascists all over the globe.
Well, they are. No,
like
there's a global
Italy,
rise. There's a
UK.
global rise in fascism.
Yeah.
But I thought it was the Tories were the bad ones, or the conservative ones. Sorry, but the ones that are unpopular, the people who did Brexit, and then you have the Labour, which I always assumed is like the centrist, the center left, run of the mill liberal, and then you have the Reform, and then there's the AfD in Germany, which is the alternative
the Nazi party.
Alternative for Deutschland or alternative for Germany. And that's just straight up the Nazi party.
Yeah.
Like they are not shy about that. But it's just like I don't understand. Like you look at political parties all over the globe, and maybe it's just because I'm not as well traveled or whatever, and that's like the norm in like Europe and other like continents and countries. Mm-hmm. But like I feel like here at least, like even the offshoots, because I feel like here, if we were to have like a multi-party system, it would be pretty straightforward. We'd have 7 political parties. We'd have the progressives, who are like AOC, Elizabeth Warren, Bernie. Mm-hmm. Then you would have like the establishment Democrats, Joe Biden, Barack Obama, Nancy Pelosi. Then you'd have like the socially liberal, fiscally conservative Democrats like Kirsten Sinema and Joe Manchin. Then you'd have like the centrists like Mitt Romney, who's just like, hello, like I'm a guy. Then you go over to the conservative side, you'd have the like pretty much the exact opposite of like the like you'd have like the fiscally liberal, socially conservative. So you'd have like, they'd be like, oh, I don't like gay people, but also like maybe we do need to spend a little bit of money. I'm fine with spending money. Then you'd have like the regular Republicans, you'd have your Mitch McConnells or whatever, and then you have your fucking MAGA, alt-right Marjorie Taylor Greens.
Yeah.
So like
in Australia, I think they're on a 2-party system as well, but their conservatives are our liberals and their liberals are our conservatives.
So they just didn't, they didn't have the switch
opposite.
In the 1960s that we had.
Yeah.
And that's okay. And the one that I get confused about is New Zealand, because
they got sheep.
Well, no. So they had, I don't even know what the parties are called there, but I know that the prime minister or whoever's the top executive there, Jacinda Ardern, I think was her name. She was like popular amongst people from my knowledge. And then like, I've always kind of like, at an arm's length followed New Zealand politics just because they're pretty progressive over there. And then it turns out that their party's like not popular. And then they were like, oh my God, we're about to elect the Conservative Party. And then I like looked into it and it is conservative, but like lowercase c.
Yeah.
Like it's like, oh, that's your worst case scenario? Our worst case scenario is like McCarthyism. Yeah. Like your worst case scenario is like Mitt Romney and ours is like fucking Hitler.
Yeah.
Everywhere else.
We're not the same. The Mexican president is pretty popping right now.
Just an 80% approval rate. Do you know how crazy that is?
Insane. Good on Mexico.
Have you seen the picture of her at her inauguration and it looks like fucking Coruscant?
Yeah.
It's like aura farming.
Crazy.
Or a farming.
But we got completely away from the topic I was talking about.
Patrick Bateman.
Yeah, stock market lost $8 trillion after...
Money's not real.
Yeah, after DeepSeek's latest model started becoming popular. Like I said, it was released in December.
Right.
Lower cost, higher efficiency model that just essentially popped the AI bubble. Because NVIDIA has always done relatively well in terms of technology because they're putting out like the best GPUs on the market.
Right.
And with the rise of cryptocurrency and the whole like blockchain shit, their stocks were starting to significantly increase because you have to use GPUs to do all the calculations to like farm the fucking coins and shit. And then when AI was starting to become more of a thing over the past couple of years, they started building their own AI models and implementing them into their graphics cards. And that in turn helps with video games like frame rates. It can simulate like more shit for your games and pre-cache it. And then it helps with that blockchain shit. Same reason it can like simulate possibilities, pre-cache it, makes it easier to farm. And they were considered like one of the best like AI models on the market. Had like an 800 or no, they had a $2 trillion market cap, and then they ended up losing like 20% from that. So but then it bounced right back, so it doesn't fucking matter.
The stock market just doesn't make sense. And you know what? I don't know. Call me an idiot. Yeah, I need an economist and I'm fairly well versed in geopolitics. I mean, you know how I am.
Mm-hmm.
I need someone to sit down and write it out for me like a fucking 5-year-old as to why we cannot just cooperate with each other for like the mutual, like, why is it that like we were so shut off, like secretive about our models, and then China is like, we're gonna put out our own and it's gonna be open source, and like everyone's like, oh my god, China is now like a major competitor, and it's like, why do we need to, like, why can't we just...
It's just it's our mindset versus theirs. Like,
yeah,
our
it's like, it just...
capitalistic mindset, we have to be the best, we have to constantly expand,
and that's
and
like...
then them, they're just like, we just want to, like, the founder of the company actually came out and was like, yeah, we made this open source because this shouldn't be a commodity that people are chasing after or trying to become number one in. This should be a tool that makes everybody's lives easier,
right,
which is what we were talking about last week.
There is a geopolitical influence in it, right? Because if you look at, and that's it does tie back actually to the tariffs thing, right? Mm-hmm. Because what economists are concerned about is that we're putting tariffs on Mexico, China is actually only 10%, which I thought was crazy because, like, for some reason it's like China is just like the one thing that everyone here agrees on, or at least all the politicians agree on, is like China bad, unless you're Gavin Newsom, in which case you're like very pro China. But like, we're putting 25% tariffs on Mexico, 25% tariffs on Canada. They're exploring tariffs for the EU. Like, they're cutting off, like funding and like aid help for all foreign countries right now,
mm-hmm.
to like pause and like reevaluate what the morals, or like what the whatever, that, making sure that the aid that they're funding aligns with the Trump administration's values, right?
Yeah.
They're cutting off, we withdrew from the World Health Organization because we pay really, and you know what? I do hate to give Donald Trump his flowers because I personally don't like Donald Trump. But he is correct in the sense that we do pay a lot of money into it compared to everyone else. But we are also the richest country.
So we have the highest GDP on the planet. So, why wouldn't we be paying the most?
And that's the whole thing. So it's like there's a thing that I saw about couples and how like they split bills, and like some couples will split bills just straight down the middle. If you're,
mm-hmm.
If your rent's $3,000, you're paying $1,500 each. But some couples will say like, oh, I make $100,000, you make $70,000, so I make 30% more than you, or 30% more than you. So, or I make $30,000 more than you, whatever percent of your salary that, whatever percent of $170,000, right? Let's say that's the income with 100,000, 70,000.
Uh-huh.
I make X amount of that or X percent of that total household income. So therefore the bills will be split like that. So for example, let's say your income is 60% of the total household income. So I'll pay 60% of the rent. I'll pay 60% of the groceries. I'll pay 60% of the electric bill.
I've never thought of doing that before. I've always just been like a straight down the middle guy.
Personally, if you're in a relationship and whatever you're doing works, like that's fine. But like I just know that some couples will do it that way, where they just say like to make it proportionate, and that's what I think the Trump administration's not. They're thinking of just purely the numbers. It's like how people say like crime is higher in California, and it's like, yeah, if you look at the numbers, there's more crime here. But do you know what there's also more of? People.
Yeah.
We have 40 million people here. Of course we're going to have the highest number of people in a murder, highest number of people murdered.
Yeah.
But is it super common?
Yeah.
For our population.
If you look at the rate of crime, it's so much smaller than like a deep red place like Alabama. Like in Alabama, you are like 2-3 times more likely to be the victim of a violent crime than you are in San Francisco.
Same thing with cost of living here in California. Everyone's like, oh, California is so expensive. And it is. Yeah. Don't get me wrong. Houses are expensive here. But do you know what else is also high here? Pay compared to everyone else. I literally do not know a single person who makes minimum wage.
Yeah.
Like at even the most quote unquote, I hate this phrase, but quote unquote unskilled jobs, the fast food workers make $20 an hour, and I think they should be making more. Don't get me wrong. Like, I don't care if I have to pay 25 cents more for my fucking milkshake, but like, so it's just like everything is looked at in terms of like profit, and it's like, okay, and China with their thing, even if they're making it open source and they're holding is like this should be a public commodity. I absolutely agree with that, but China also does get something out of it in the fact that they're now
good PR.
They're getting good PR. So countries that are not as developed or that are developing and are dependent on high GDP nations to kind of help move them along are going to go to China versus the US.
Yeah, and it's definitely an interesting since fucking I remember New Year's Eve 2019 about to turn into 2020. I'm at a party. I'm fucked up. I'm thinking in my head, oh, it's 2020. We're gonna recreate the Roaring '20s from the 1920s. That like era of like
skipped right
huge
over
parties and like opulence and all this shit. I was excited. Fucking just an endless stream of events that you will read in history books has been happening over the past 5 years. And this is one of them. It's the U.S.'s hegemonic power is waning. We are losing our place as the number one like fucking place in the world, and China is quickly catching up to us, which I am not opposed to. Personally, I don't care. There should not matter to me. A world police at all.
The whole thing
like,
is
everybody should keep to themselves if they are going to do other shit with other countries, like trade, of course, cooperate, of course, but we don't need to be fucking blowing up shit in Syria.
That's the whole thing.
Is the
whole like global police thing that did not exist before World War II.
Yeah,
and the only reason it happened is because of like Pearl Harbor and us being kind of drawn into World War II, because we were isolationist before that, which is also a bad fucking policy. I hate that.
Yeah,
but like we got into it and we're like, fine, if we're gonna get involved in this shit, we're gonna fucking. And I do agree, right? Like how the Allied powers after World War II were like, okay, we're gonna dictate what goes on with Germany, right? Like I definitely think like, if we're gonna go in and defeat the Nazis, right? We can't trust a country that literally just had a Nazi regime to bounce back properly, right? So I do agree with that, but it's like the US kind of just was like, we're going to keep doing this. But so did the USSR. And that's kind of where that power struggle really began. And it's like, for me, it's like, it just goes under the box of like things that like, I don't care about. I don't care. Like, I don't think there needs to be a global police. The same way, like, I don't really particularly care about borders. Like, like if someone wants to come to the US and tough it out for a better life, like, go on, man. Like, I'm sure. Do I want rapists and murderers coming here? No, but guess what we already have here without the immigrants? Rapists and murderers. Like, it's just not statistically significant. Like, do I want people to get raped and murdered? Absolutely not. Right? But like, it also happens here, and we don't particularly do much about it. I have a criminal justice degree, and I can tell you, we don't like. I think the last time I checked for murders and rapes actually, it was like you have 100% of the rapes, like only like 60 or something like percent, or like less than half are reported. Of the ones that are reported, like less than half are investigated. Of the ones that are investigated, less than half are like an arrest is made, and of the ones where there's an arrest made, less than half are prosecuted, and then of the ones that are prosecuted, less than half are like actually convicted and like sentenced. So it's just like, it's just the whole like global policing, the whole like global competition, the whole, you know, it just goes under stuff of like, oh, that's not benefiting me. It doesn't drive prices lower for me. It hasn't. If it was going to, it would have. We've been doing the same thing since 1945, and here we are, man. Like,
to bring it back to two things we talked about previously, Star Wars,
oh god,
and that picture of the Mexican president. I have always really enjoyed like Coruscant in Star Wars, and how it's just one big ass city, and I'm like, that's cool.
We need that.
Yeah, we need that. We need
bring back Pangea.
Need slums. We need a big ass hole in the ground that goes down 80 levels that like all the cool outlaws and people hang out in. And then we need a fucking upper city with flying cars.
I have always been fascinated how, for some reason, every single thing on frame in any Star Wars media content has like a wiki page.
Oh yeah.
Like you can just look up like, what is the instrument that the butt guys play? And like they will tell you the instrument and like give you like a whole article on the instrument. And I'm like,
there are people that make those instruments too.
That's that's crazy. I'm glad that people have niche interests. And you know what? Speaking of niche interests, and China too, I heard a movie recommendation. It's called Twilight of the Warriors Walled In.
Okay.
And it's like a martial arts movie. It's in China. And the person that recommended it was like, yeah, it takes place in this walled city. And I was like, wait a minute. Walled city? China? And I go, are they talking about the Kowloon walled city? So I looked it up and I go, they're talking about the Kowloon walled city. Do you know what the Kowloon walled city is?
I'm guessing it's a city with some walls around it.
We're losing the ancient text, man. I don't get how people don't know about this thing. You don't know about it?
No.
Oh my god. Okay. Do you have any like historical like niche interests like the Titanic, World War II, non-red flag World War II?
Can't think of any right now, but I'm sure I do.
I feel like it's so important to have like a historical, because it's like,
oh, the what was that shit called? Roanoke, that like colony that like everybody just disappeared.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, like I'm interested in that shit. I looked into it.
Do you know a lot about it though?
I know that people disappeared and there was a word carved onto the tree.
Okay. I feel like it's super important for people to have like niche historical interests, because it like keeps history going. Because history's been told throughout history. Yeah. But like,
good job.
The way that like history has been told is verbal. Like it's written down now because we have the ability to. But like,
but it started
the
in,
Odyssey.
Like, stories,
the
like
Odyssey is like, it's told by voice. So if you don't have a historical interest, I recommend that you find one, because it's really important. It keeps history alive, and history teaches us lessons. But the Kowloon walled city, super interesting thing. So basically, you know how the UK and China kind of were like, hey man, we're going to be imperialist number one. And they kind of got into a couple wars, and then the UK won.
Opioid wars.
So right after the opioid wars, when the UK took control of Hong Kong, the Chinese had a military base there called the Kowloon City Military Base, I think is what it was called. And it was like this huge walled in military base, because, you know, China loves their walls. And basically what happened is the UK took over Hong Kong, and a bunch of Chinese nationals started squatting in the military base, because the military base was like abandoned. And the UK kind of was just like, not really like a big concern to us. And so they kept squatting there, and they basically, more people kept coming, because there was it was like an enclave inside of a foreign government that they weren't doing anything of. So there was no real jurisdiction there.
Yeah.
So they built a city. Like the people that were moving there just built a city. And it was the most densely populated place in human history. I think it was like 30,000 people per square mile.
Damn.
Yeah. It was like, I think it's like 11 or 12 times the density of New York City. And it was like, I think 5 football fields is the space it was. And there was like well over 100,000 people living there. Damn. And basically like the buildings were so close together, and like the way it was built was like there's no permits, there was just no government.
Yeah.
It was a completely anarchist, thing. So basically it was a bunch of 5/1 living plans where like the first floor of all the buildings were like businesses, and then like people just lived above them. But basically it was like apartments that were like less than 100 square feet with like 5 people living in them. Like it was so densely populated, and people would just like throw their garbage on the roof. It was built like right next to an airport. And when I say like right next to an airport, is the highest they could build a building was 14 stories, because if it went higher than that, then the planes would hit the buildings as they landed. And it was so dense that if you were on the street, you couldn't see the sky.
Hell yeah.
Like it was impossible. It was perpetual darkness. The alleyways were only like 3 feet wide.
Have you China is really good at just building like super densely populated places. Have you ever seen that city? I don't know the name of it, but it's got like the train that goes through the apartment buildings.
Yes, you see it on TikTok?
Yeah,
yes.
You like go out the roof on one building and you're on like the first floor of another building.
There's this
like,
guy
that
who's
shit
like
is cool.
He's like, oh, time for my daily commute, and I forget what the city's called.
Yeah,
and then he
like walks through like 7 different buildings.
Yeah, and
takes
he's like
2 trains.
And he's like, okay, I'm gonna get off this train on the 67th floor, and you're like,
yeah,
wait, what?
Yeah, and the highway's just right there.
Yeah, that's crazy. We need more megalopolises.
I would love to live in a place like that.
It's called a megalopolis. We need a megalopolis, not the movie.
What's the movie about?
You haven't heard of Megalopolis? Francis Ford Coppola's Megalopolis?
Isn't that what they called the place in Megamind too?
I have no idea. A megalopolis is just it's basically like a highly
metropolis.
Well, okay. we have a megalopolis here.
Where?
It's DC, Philadelphia, and New York.
Yeah, but there's no trains that go through apartment buildings.
No, there's no trains that go through apartment buildings, but there are trains that connect them very quickly. So it's like a megalopolis is just basically like a bunch of like cities that are like next to each other that are connected very well with good public transportation, and they're high density.
Okay.
So the U.S. megalopolis is Philadelphia, D.C., and New York. No, New York. No, D.C., then Philadelphia, then New York, south to north.
Okay.
So we do need more of those. San Francisco could be a megalopolis.
I was about to say, would Sacramento be considered that? Because you got like Carmichael and the.
That's not big enough. We're just like we could if we got rid of our fucking building codes.
Yeah, start putting buildings everywhere and trains that go through them.
Yeah, I mean that's the whole thing with San Francisco is they literally were fighting over. Do you know I think it's called the Great Pacific Highway?
I've heard of it. Yeah,
the one that's like
I don't know
right
which
there.
one it is.
It's just the west side of San Francisco.
Okay,
like the beach that's like right there. So basically, it was a highway that connected South City to like the north up by Golden Gate Park and everything like that. And then they shut it down, I think in like 2020 because of COVID. And they were like, oh, we're going to do some repairs. And then they basically kind of converted it into a walkway for people.
Oh, yeah. I saw the video of that. They like put the highway underground now. And now there's like a pier thing there. Yeah.
I didn't see
like that it might not be in San Francisco, but there was some place where they like shut down a highway and then they built like a boardwalk type shit where the highway used to be.
Smart.
Yeah.
But in San Francisco, so basically they had this thing. It kind of looks like a bike trail now on the beach, right? And so there's this whole fight of whether or not to open it back up. And basically people are like, we got to take our cars over. And it's like, man, you live in San Francisco.
Yeah.
Like it's not the most walkable city. Like it's hard to walk in San Francisco, but the public transportation there is more than adequate.
Yeah.
You can take Muni, I think it's called, like anywhere. And so they're like this whole fight. And then that whole area is just full of like single family housing, like 1-story single family housing. It's suburbs. And it's like San Francisco's this giant fucking like little peninsula. And if they just got rid of those fucking building codes and started building up, it'd be like the greatest city. It could be what Hong Kong is.
Yeah.
Like, it could be the U.S.'s Hong Kong.
Yeah.
Like,
I think the hesitation is in the fact that
NIMBYs.
San Francisco is supposed to just fall off the state in like a few years.
It's NIMBYs.
Oh yeah, them
It's
too.
NIMBYs.
Yeah.
It's don't be a NIMBY. I don't want to say I'm apolitical. I'm trying to be apolitical on this podcast because I'm not. But
Yeah,
if there's one thing I'm really gonna attack you on, it's being a NIMBY. Yeah. I hate NIMBYs. Like, I mean, we're in a house right now in the suburbs, and I hate it.
Yeah, I hate living in the suburbs. I lived in the suburbs my whole life, and now I'm in an apartment in like the middle of town, and I like that so much more. I don't even
think, like, and that's the whole thing, is like, when you look at what YIMBYs, which is the opposite of NIMBYs, want to do, it's not it's like I saw this argument. It was like, what are you gonna do to like compensate the people that you're fucking over to like develop suburbs back into like walkable dense cities? And you're like,
fucking nothing, bitch. Move.
Well, no, it's not even that. It's define fuck over, right? Because this is what happens when they do that. You own a house, and then a developer comes up to you and says, hey, I would like to build a shopping center right here, high density shopping center. May I please buy your house from you so I can demolish it? Here's $500,000. And then they say, no, I'm good. I don't want to move. And they say, okay, I'll give you $700,000. And they say, no, it's okay. I'm good. I don't want to move. And they say, I'll give you $800,000. You say, okay, that's fine. How are you getting fucked over? You're being overcompensated for your house.
Yeah.
Like, no one is holding a gun to your head. They're not enacting eminent domain and saying move, right? I mean, go to Midtown Sacramento. There's houses in the middle of everything.
Yeah.
That's my ideal city.
Yeah.
Like, there's single family housing, there's high density apartments, there's duplexes and oddplexes, they're called. But
seen a suplex down there the other day.
The wrestling move?
Yeah.
What happened?
I don't know.
The state senators are fighting each other again. No, but you know, it's just, you're not fucking people over. You know, you're getting compensated for your house, and the people that don't want to move don't move, and now you have a grocery store down the street from your house.
Yeah, it's also improving the area.
I don't see how that's a negative for people. Like, I just fail to see how, oh man, I have to go to the store because I forgot butter. Let me walk across the street.
Yeah.
Is a negative for anyone. I have to go. I get up every morning and I go to the gym. I would love to be able to walk to the gym so that I don't have to do a warm up when I get to the gym.
Yeah.
If I walked to the gym, it would take me well over 2 hours to get there. And it's just down the street.
I don't think it would take that long.
It's 4 miles. Oh, no, maybe not well over. Maybe an hour and a half.
I would say like an hour.
15-minute mile to walk it. It's 4 miles away.
Yeah.
Okay, 60 minutes. Okay, okay. You know what?
I was going to say, I walked to school a bunch. My house was like 5-6 miles away. I could clear that shit in like 45 minutes.
I could do calculus. I can't do basic math. No, so either way, an hour. But that's an hour to and an hour back. Right?
Yeah.
I would love to be... I can't even walk to the Walgreens that's down the street because there's no fucking sidewalk because we're redlined.
Yeah, you're just walking in the street.
Right. So it's just like, for everyone who doesn't actually know us in real life, there's a giant field right outside my house that is not being used. They use it to do like hay once a year and sunflowers once a year. But it's this giant, I don't even know. I can't even tell you how many acres. Maybe 50 acres, 60 acres.
I don't know.
It has acres. Acres is like 5 houses. So like 5 of these houses would be like an acre.
I don't fucking know.
I don't know. I'm gonna conservatively say 50, 60 acres, right?
Okay.
Field's not being used. What is stopping them from putting a bunch of amenities right there?
Yeah.
That I could easily get to, right? The houses wouldn't go away. We would still have a bunch of houses here. It's just everyone here could easily walk to it instead of having to fucking get in your car and drive over.
Yeah.
And so it's just, I don't know. It's
some people are really picky about that whole like, I like the way the neighborhood looks type shit. You know what I mean? Like,
you know who also said that?
Huh?
segregationists back in the 1950s, and I hate to compare.
Same mindset.
It's the same mindset, and I hate to compare people who just want their neighborhood to be like clean, whatever. Like they're not overtly being racist to segregationists, but it's a segregationist mindset, right?
Yeah, it's literally the same as like, oh, I don't want that around here.
Yeah,
like in both the segregationist mindset and the reason why people don't want their fucking Starbucks to be next door.
Reason I can tell you right now, the reason that there is like the reason that people associate cities, right, with like crime and like dirtiness is because no one lives in cities anymore. No one can afford to live in cities.
Yeah.
Right? So you have a bunch of people who live outside the city, right? You have, let's take Sacramento. You have Midtown. There's some people that live there, but they're probably people that are the upper earners of the area because it's expensive to live in Midtown. Then you have Natomas, which is like a neighborhood. So for those of you who don't live in Sacramento, we have like the equivalent of boroughs for New York. So we have Midtown, Old Town, Natomas, Carmichael, Arden, Citrus Heights is its own city, North Highlands, and a couple other, South Sac, Tahoe Park, Curtis Park, a couple other like neighborhoods. They're all neighborhoods, but they're all like on a map named. And so we have all these different areas where people actually live because they can afford it. And they're these own like micro societies. Mm-hmm. And so they all have their own different norms and customs because no one can afford to live in Midtown. And then they all go to Midtown and they don't mesh correctly because everyone's stuck in Natomas or everyone's stuck in Citrus Heights or everyone's stuck in North Highlands. And so it's like, that's the exact reason. Like you look at New York City, you have the boroughs there and everyone that lives in New York can tell who's a native of New York City. But then they can tell the second someone from Jersey comes in. Right, because Jersey's on the outskirts and it's its own thing, and that's like the reason that people associate cities with like dirtiness and whatever. It's because it's different people, and we automatically look at like different cultures and people as negative, and it's like, I don't know, just don't do that.
Yeah. Also, punishing people for homelessness and classifying it as a crime leads to that whole like. Is another major factor in leading to that whole interpretation of cities as like crime ridden and dirty.
Yeah.
Like these motherfuckers can't afford to live, which shouldn't happen in the richest country on the earth. Well, like there's no amenities, there's nothing to help them out. Hardly anything to help them out.
And this is the whole thing. I can tell you right now, it's really a policy choice, right? And it's a failure it's not even a failure on the Democratic Party. And it's really not a failure on the Republic. It's a failure on the political system in general. There's a saying that I always say, and that's that policy is a choice, right? So if your policy is to criminalize homelessness, that's a choice. If your policy is to criminalize homelessness, your policy is then to choose not to give people houses, right? And the one thing, and this is like people always, sorry, I'm hitting my mic. People always are like, don't get a criminal justice degree. It's completely useless, right? It's not. It's actually useful, right? But the thing that a lot of people don't get is that when you get a criminal justice degree, you really realize how many problems in society, specifically criminal justice related, could be solved by just not criminalizing things. Like, and I know that sounds stupid, right? Like if I say like, oh, decriminalize drugs. Of course, there's not going to be any drug crimes because you can't charge people with crimes that aren't crimes. But what I'm saying is like with homelessness, right? You look at the amount of people homeless and you say, okay, how much is it going to cost to put all these people into housing, permanent, not a shelter, not, where they're sleeping in, giant rooms full of 20 other people on bunk beds or whatever, not a motel, like a apartment, a 1-bedroom apartment. How much is it going to cost to put them into a 1-bedroom apartment or, a small house or whatever? It's cheaper than it is to arrest them and prosecute them and house them in jail.
Yeah.
So it's like, that's a choice. Like we're making a choice to go the more expensive route. So even if like you shouldn't, I don't think you should look down upon homeless people as less than, but even if you want to go the conservative route and treat them as a number, it still doesn't make sense, right?
Yeah.
It's the same thing with like the death penalty. Like personally, I am against the death penalty because I just don't agree with killing people in any circumstance. And from a legal standpoint, it's like there's 2 crimes in the US that you can get executed for. I think 3 actually. Capital murder, treason, and espionage. But I think one of those is intertwined with the other. I don't know.
Yeah, I could see espionage be tied in with treason.
But either way, those are the things that you can get executed for, right? So in America, capital murder is like the most common thing we put people to death for. It's premeditated murder, meaning that you had to have malice aforethought, which is basically you say, I'm going to kill this person. This is how I'm going to do it. I've now taken the steps to facilitate that plan, and then I've gone through with the plan, right? We say that's worth killing someone. That's worth the death penalty for, right? So what is it when a state says, we want to execute this person, we are going to facilitate a plan to execute this person, we're going to put in place measures to facilitate that plan, and then we go through with it, and then that person is innocent? It's capital murder. It's the same exact circumstances that lead to capital murder, right? What is the punishment for capital murder? Death. So should we put the government to death?
Yes. Start over.
Revolution. No, but that's the whole thing. It's what is it? Like a
catch-22?
A fallacy? A logical fallacy or whatever? Where like it's like a, you know, when you like, it's like you can't go back in time to kill your grandpa, because if you kill your grandpa, then you can't be born to go back in time to kill your grandpa.
Yeah, that one's called the time traveler's paradox.
A paradox. That's what I was looking for. It's a paradox. It's a legal paradox, right? That's how I think about it, right? So I'm against the death penalty for that reason. It's immoral. I think it's immoral to kill someone just in general, right? Under pretty much any circumstances. There's very, very few circumstances that I think someone should actually be killed. Harvey Weinstein is one of them.
I was gonna say, there's some people need to die.
There's a few people. I don't wish death upon people, but I believe in the phrase "have the day you deserve." So it's like if you get killed for something you do, and you're like a fucking awful person, I'm not gonna feel bad for you.
Yeah.
You know, but I genuinely do not believe in executing prisoners, even in the worst. You could tell me, you know, here's, I don't know, the Zodiac killer. Here's, I don't know, the Vegas shooter, right? The guy who shot up from Mandalay Bay. I don't think he should have been put to death. I mean, he killed himself, but like, I don't think he should have been put to death. Because again, if the state puts him to death and we kill one person innocent, the whole system is just rot at that point. Like if it goes wrong, it's unfortunately just a position where it's like if it goes wrong once, the whole system is rotten, right? But what I'm saying is, what I was getting at is that even if you are like, I am fully in support of killing some people, it is still more expensive to kill someone in the United States for the death penalty than it is to put them in prison for the rest of their life. It's like $245,000 for life in prison with no parole. The average execution in America is like well over $2 million. So it's like we're still spending more money.
Is that specifically for the execution, or is it for the whole process?
The whole process. There's like the whole process.
It gets fucking.
So you have the appeals. Right. You have automatic appeals. You have to source the drugs. You have to pay the staff. When you are on death row, you get put in a special, like, holding area. Death row. It's like a more high security thing. So it's just. The cost adds up, right? When you get put in prison, life without parole, you don't really get an automatic. In some states or jurisdictions, you might get an automatic appeal, but like you don't have to, right? So it's just cheaper to put people in prison, and we can do an episode about prisons because I have thoughts on that. But like it's cheaper to put people in prison, and that's like the whole thing. It's like the government, regardless of who's in control of it, frequently makes choices that are more expensive, right?
Yeah.
It's more expensive, going back to the whole like megalopolis thing, to have suburbs that are well out of the way, right? Because I now have to get in my car, right? And my car is pretty good on gas. It only costs me $30 to fill out my car, which could be lower. But I have to get in my car to drive to the gym, but because I'm just driving down a surface street, it fucks up my MPG.
Yeah.
So it costs me more money because now my car's less fuel efficient because I'm not driving it at 55 miles an hour. I'm driving it at 25 miles an hour. I have to commute to work, but my work is 22 miles away because I can't afford to live right where my work is. Policy choice. It's all policy choice. If you build more housing, the houses get cheaper. And then if houses get cheaper, more people move there. And then if more people move there, you have more voting power.
Yeah.
And then if you have more voting power, you have chances to stay in power. It's like politicians want to stay in power. That's like the whole goal is in politics, is to get elected, grow power, or maintain power. Those are your three things. And it's like every choice they make is counterintuitive for those things. Like California, you know, by 2030, I think California is going to be below 50 electoral votes.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be like 48. We used to have 55, dude. That's a policy failure.
Yeah. I think I don't know the right word for it, but the reason why these policies aren't enacted, even though they make sense for it to be enacted, like you said, you have more people in houses, more people that can vote in your districts and all that.
Well, it doesn't benefit the people who have 42% of the money.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's an assumption that these people that are living in the houses are the ones that are actually like keeping the politicians in office, which yes, you vote for them, but at the end of the day, they have all their fucking little puppet strings pulled by like corporations.
Yeah,
like
no,
that.
absolutely.
They're the ones who are keeping the people in office. They're the ones who are lobbying to be like, actually, no, we don't want more houses here and shit like that.
Right. Well, and that's the whole, like, again, like I said, I don't like giving Donald Trump his flowers at all. But I will say that I think to an extent, the idea of like strong arming your way through policy that has taken forever to get, and don't get me wrong, the policies that he's pushing through are very harmful. I'm not contesting anything, but like the same method could be applied to make people's lives better, right? So, for example, the people in Silicon Valley, they don't want more housing built because they have fucking mansions, right? Yeah. These are all multimillionaire tech bros. They want to have their property value stay the same. Fuck it. Push it through, right? Then you won't need their billions of dollars funding your campaign because the people will come up and vote for you if you make their lives better. It won't matter. It's like there's a RFK's confirmation hearing. was this week. It is. I have a point that I'm going to make with this. I'm not going off the rails. Senator Raphael Warnock of Georgia voted no on him. Obviously, he's a Democrat, so he's not going to vote for Trump's guy. RFK's running mate, Nicole Shanahan, I think it was, when he was running for president, his VP pick, and some other person were like, "Oh, we're going to personally fund a primary against Raphael Warnock for voting no." And it's like, you think that the state of Georgia is going to primary their extremely popular Baptist priest, like preacher, senator? Like, what? You think that's going to happen? It would be like someone saying, like, I'm going to run a primary against Nancy Pelosi in San Francisco. Like, it's just not going to happen. Like, the votes aren't there. Like, people are not motivated. So I guess what I'm saying is like, if you just pull the levers as a government, like China does, right, the people will show up to vote for you if you make their lives tangibly better, you know? So it's like, I get it. I get that you want your property values to stay high, but I also want people to have houses. Yeah. I want people to be able to afford to live. And it goes back to what I was saying, I think on last week's episode, where I said, like, there's a finite amount of money that I've struggled for so long to figure out what it is, of what more can you do with any extra money than what you have now, right? Is it $20 million? Like, what can you do with 20 that you can't do with 10? What can you do with 50 that you can't do with 20, right? So it's like, in the same sense, it's like, what are you going to do with a property value that's in the millions versus a property value that's in the 500,000s? Like, if you're gaining money on your investment, that's a win. And I get you want to gain as much as you can, but like, what are you gaining by fucking everyone else over? Because then you're just deeply unpopular.
Yeah, I think the majority of people just don't think about it too far. They just see dollar bills coming in and they're like, "Oh, yes, please."
And that's the problem, is it's like the
thing that I think really fucked us over and led us to this point. I mean, there's a multitude of things, but the one that always sticks out of my head is that Supreme Court ruling from like the 80s or the 90s that allowed
Citizens United. That was in the 2000s.
That was in the 2000s.
That was in the 2000s.
Yeah,
yes, sir.
One it is that allowed corporations to act as
Citizens United. That really is a turning point. We should do an episode on that.
Like a whole investigation on it.
Yeah,
I'll look. Did it? Who's at fault?
Well, no, no.
Home address on the screen.
I'll look into it. Because I'm the legal expert here. Mm-hmm. I'll look into it. I'll read the brief on it, and I'll report back. We'll talk about the implications of it, because I really do think that was like a turning. There's a few turning points in America. Yeah. And I think that's like
a big one.
That's like a really, really big one, because I don't know if you heard, but Elon Musk has been meddling in politics. He's trying to buy off the Reform Party in UK, AFD in Germany, and
he wanted the like logins for the Department of Treasury.
Well, he's already influenced his way in here. Yeah. Like, it's a lost cause here. I mean, it's not a lost cause. Don't give up. But like, he's already in here. Australia responded because he's trying to meddle there. They're responding by pushing through a bill to limit donations to $20,000, which is smart. And again, that's something that Citizens United would not allow, because Citizens United said that corporations are people.
Yeah, and I think what is it? The limit on how much an individual person can put up is like $200, right? Or like $2,000, something with a 2 on it. Like, if you want to donate to a political campaign, there's a hard limit on how much you can do it.
Yes, but there's carve-outs like PACs and super PACs.
Yeah. And that's what I'm saying. Like, corporations should be forced to adhere to that, but then, like you said, you just have the PACs and dark money and shit that works around it. But I feel like you need to, I don't know, man. There's so many things that need to change. You need to stop letting corporations act as people. Right. You need to get rid of political action committees, and now nobody has money from big donors to fund their campaigns. And so what do? They have to go and they have to enact these policies, like you were saying, to get more people in their district, to get their popularity up. And then it's like a whole reforming. Instead of listening to whoever's paying you the most money, you're listening to what the people on the ground are saying.
Well, no, and I think there is a program here similar to this. And I read that there's a place that does this as well. I can't remember off the top of my head, but basically it's like, there is no private funding of elections. There's like basically like the government sets aside a portion of taxes every year. And then when the election season comes around, they say, okay, these are your whatever. If they're doing it ranked choice, or if there's 2 people, they say, okay, here you go. Here's, half and half. That's your budget. And so they're on an equal playing ground. And I think that would be beneficial. Like, in America, the elections are bought. They are. Like, I know that like this year, a lot of people were like, oh yeah, Elon Musk bought the election from us, or for Trump.
He fucking bought it for himself.
He bought it for himself, but Joe Biden raised over $1 billion. He was the first $1 billion presidential campaign. That election was bought. Like, I'm not saying it was rigged or anything like that. It wasn't. But it was bought, right? You look at campaign season. I got like 20 texts a day from Kamala Harris.
Dude, I get so many texts from someone. Signed me up for like a conservative like spam list because it's like Joe Biden's DEI policies bring in 50 million like people to the country that are doing crimes in your area. Click this link now. And I'm just like, what the fuck is this? Who signed me up for this shit? Like, it's so annoying.
Well, but that's the whole thing. It's like every election has been bought in some way or the other because it's all about fundraising. And if we just took that aspect out of it and, you know, made it so that candidates running had to, you know, had a strict budget of what they could and could not spend, you know, and I think part of it also is it wouldn't really, there's a way, because you'd have to legislate out a lot of shit. Yeah. Like you would have to anti-legislate Citizens United, right? Yeah. But even that legislation could be ruled as unconstitutional. Yeah. Right? A lot of policies, or sorry, not a lot of policies, a lot of elections could be sealed if politicians did stuff like China, where they, again, softly using this phrase, but strong-armed the ebbs and flows of daily life, right? If they pulled levers. There was like a study I read about where it was like a blind study, and it was like, here's a policy, and it was always like a Democratic policy. Agree or disagree. And like 70 to 80% of people were like, oh, I like that policy. Yeah. Then they would say, okay, vote for a party. And then it was like 60% to Republicans. And it's like, that's not the Republican policy, right?
Yeah, it's so it's an education issue.
It's an education issue, but it's like, it's the same thing where like, I was very grateful that Joe Biden's administration was able to pass the Infrastructure Act, right? That was like generational. Like we're talking like New Deal type of legislation, like that got passed, right? No one is going to see tangible benefits of that for like 10 or 12 years. So it's like, I'm grateful that they got it passed, but if you're trying to retain power, you have to give people something to
like immediately
latch onto. Yeah. That's why people were so like, oh, but Trump gave us the stimmy checks, because he slapped his name on those checks, and that was money in people's pocket. Yeah. Right. It's the same reason that Obama got super popular after 2008's election, because we were in a recession caused by Republican policies, and he came in and slapped his name on stuff. The only thing that got negative that his name got slapped on was Obamacare, and he didn't even call it Obamacare. It's called the Affordable Health Care Act. Yeah. And there's like, I don't know if you've seen those videos where it's like, oh, do you support the Affordable Health Care Act? And I'm like, yeah. And I'm like, do you support Obamacare? And they're like, no. Yeah. Same exact. It is the same thing. It is just two different names, right? So it's like, you have to give people something tangible to latch onto. And it's like, so if you want to be a successful politician, you have to, like Gavin Newsom right now is in the wake of the fires down in Southern California. They basically like cut all permitting down there. Not like, you know, build stuff without permitting, just do whatever you want. But like, they are cutting a lot of red tape. Right? They're giving a lot of incentives to rebuild and rebuild fast. And that's the whole thing. Like, have you seen like in Europe how they'll like demolish an overpass and rebuild it in like 48 hours? Yeah. That's a policy choice, right? Yeah. In California, we've been having this fucking construction on the freeway here in Sacramento for 3 years now, and it's behind schedule. Put that shit on 24-hour staffing. Pump the money into it. Hire crews for a 24/7 thing. And show people, oh, you want a nice, smooth freeway to drive on? Here, we'll give it to you, and we'll give it to you in 6 months versus 2 years. And people are going to say, wow, thank you, Gavin Newsom, because in your administration, you started and finished this thing, and it has tangibly increased, like, my commute time. Like, it has, you know, cut down on my commute time. Oh, I was paying, you know, $2,000 a month for rent in a 1-bedroom apartment, and now I'm paying $1,000. Thanks, you know, politician. Like, it's all just policy choice. And that's, I think, going back to your AI thing, like that's what China does, is they step in and they pull every lever that they can. And that's like something that the U.S. just hasn't done and refuses to do. Yeah. So
you better not refuse to hit that fucking subscribe button.
Pull the subscribe lever, actually.
Yeah. Hit follow, subscribe. This has been episode 3 of Learning Curve podcast. Show it to a child that doesn't know how to read. And turn the subtitles on, mute the video, and then just let them figure it out on their own.
Show it to a child knowing that in this episode I said the words "he's fingering my pussy."
Yeah, and the word jockstrap about 12 times.
Jockstrap is fine. Okay, it's just a type of underwear.
Yeah, I know, but it might put ideas in his head. Gonna start wearing jockstraps.
Put your children in jockstraps. That's the lesson you're taking away from here. Okay, I'm gonna give us a readout of all of our little socials. We are Learning Curve Pod on YouTube, learningcurvepod.bsky.social on Bluesky, Learning Curve Pod on Twitter, learningcurve.podcast on Instagram. Fuck those people who got the Learning Curve Pod handle. TikTok, Learning Curve Podcast. We're fully out on TikTok.
Yep.
We
your homework comments on there apparently. I will fucking fight you in the comments if I see more hate comments. So,
but yeah, homework assignment this week: find something historical to get niche interests in, and I don't know, comment about it. I'm not gonna I might respond to you on the socials, but we're not gonna talk about it. We're not at the point where we're gonna read them out yet.
Yeah.
No Q&A yet.
We'll get there.
I'll tell you what. Get your friends to subscribe to us, and the more people that subscribe to us, the quicker we'll get to Q&A.
Don't forget, 1,000 subscribers on YouTube, we'll do a nude calendar.
We get to 100 subscribers, I'll start a free OnlyFans. I'll slut myself out.
Free hole, paid calendar. Pick. Okay, bye.
Bye.